Hey everybody, this is GGB and co-host Puppers, and today we're going to be talking about college basketball upset of the day. Tuesday edition, I nailed my Monday pick. Absolutely nailed it. West Virginia with the comeback win and upset of Texas Tech. So I start off with 1.5 points for the week. Let's freaking go. So, we're going to have 5 games, approximately, of ranked teams. So, let's go through them real quick. At 6 o'clock, we're going to have number 24 Oklahoma traveling to number 4 Texas. And some stuff can happen with this thing. So a lot of people are fading Texas in this scenario, and there's a lot of reasons to fade Texas. Oklahoma's a very good team. Beat Kansas into a pulp last week. Absolutely destroyed them. And Texas hasn't played in about a month, and they're without head coach Shaka Smart. So there's a lot of reasons to fade Texas. Personally, I think Texas is a very good basketball team. I think they're Final Four material. They're playing especially great basketball. I just really like what the Longhorns have been doing as a program. But let's go over what would happen in the Big 12 with a win and a loss for each team. If Texas was to win this one, they move to 6-1 in conference, and doesn't do a whole lot except for keep them only one game behind Baylor. And that's huge. They have to play Baylor eventually, and I'm really excited for that game because it's going to be some fireworks that are going to go off when Baylor finally takes on Texas. And Oklahoma right now sitting at 3rd place. So if Oklahoma was to lose this game, they'd fall to 5-4 in conference. West Virginia's win over Texas Tech yesterday put them 4-3 in conference, and with a Oklahoma loss, West Virginia would pass them for the number 3 spot in the Big 12. So a big game for Oklahoma, big game for Texas to prove that they're still a great basketball team. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this one. The SEC, there's 3 huge games tonight, so it's gonna be interesting to watch for. But at 6 o'clock, we have 2 big games going on. We have Mississippi State traveling to number 18, Tennessee, and we have Kentucky traveling to number 9, Alabama, right? It doesn't seem fair that Bama is both good at football and basketball, right? But it's been weird this year. Normally, Kentucky's one of the best basketball teams in the entire country. This year, it's like different. It's weird. Kentucky's not that great, and probably isn't going to make the playoffs. It's an odd statement to say about Kentucky basketball, but it's just not that good this year, and the line has not caught up with it. Bama's only favored by 6.5 points, and they're the best team in the SEC, leading the SEC with 8-0, right? And then you look at Mississippi State traveling to number 18, Tennessee. And Tennessee's a weird team. It started at the only 1 loss in the season. They looked fantastic, easily the best team in the SEC. And then last week happened where they lost to Missouri and then to Florida, and it was not good. It was not good for Tennessee. They're on a 2-game slump right now. If they lose to Mississippi State, it is absolutely horrendous for them because they go from being in the 5 spot and really just a game out of things because really Missouri's in the 2nd spot at 4-2. What are they, 4-3? So it's not like a huge difference for them. They could easily get into the top 2 with some wins, some good things happening for them. But with a loss, if they lose to Mississippi State, they fall all the way down to 7. Yeah, 7 to 7. They fall behind Kentucky. They fall behind Arkansas. So really, you are in a bad predicament if you are Tennessee. Tennessee kind of needs to win here. It's a big game for them. So it's going to be interesting. They're favored by 9.5 points, but they were also big favorites in the Missouri game and the Florida game. So let's see if the Tennessee Volunteers that were earlier in the year show up or the ones that are later in the year. Then we have at 8 o'clock, we have number 12 Missouri traveling to Auburn. So Missouri, if you don't know, is sitting at number 2 in the SEC. They've been a very good basketball team this year, and it's a really basketball team that really came out of nowhere. Missouri's never been that great at basketball, but this year they're top 15 material, very good. They beat a pretty good Tennessee team on Saturday. So again, the Tigers are doing some great work in that situation. But what would happen if Missouri was to lose? Missouri would fall to 4-3, which would drop them below LSU and Florida. So if you're an LSU or Florida fan, you are 100% become an Auburn fan today in basketball because you could get up to 3-2. And so that's huge. Missouri would fall behind LSU and Florida. They'd get to the same record as Tennessee, but if Tennessee was to win today, again, Tennessee would pass them. So Missouri could fall all the way to 5 reasonably this week. Also, if Kentucky was to upset Alabama and Missouri was to lose to Auburn, Missouri could fall all the way down to 7. Just ahead of Arkansas. Arkansas can't pass them today. If Auburn was to win, they clinch up really. They get to move up 1 spot to 9. If they were to lose, they have a chance if Texas A&M beats LSU today. Texas A&M could pass them, or if Georgia beats South Carolina tomorrow, they could also pass them for the 10 spot. So it's an interesting. Teams have to hold on to their spots right now. And then we have a ranked team in the Atlantic 10, which does not happen very often. We have St. Louis. Now, St. Louis has not played in a while, have not played any Atlantic 10 games, but they are in the top 25 because they did fantastic out of conference, 7-1 out of conference record. So right now they're sitting at 13th. In the Atlantic 10, which is pretty impressive. 14 teams not playing a single game and is still ahead of a team, but could be huge. This could be a big impact on the league if St. Louis wins, which they're favored by 9 points, so let's consider that likely. St. Louis wins, they move to 1-0. They go from the 13 spot to the 1 spot in a day, which is pretty crazy, but it's what happens when teams don't play for a long time. Now, if Dayton was to lose, pretty heartbreaking for Dayton. They'd have to drop 2 spots they'd drop a spot to 7, but then St. Louis would go to the 1 spot, so then they drop 2 spots. Yeah, they drop all the way to 8 with a loss. So not ideal if you are Dayton, but with a win, you can move to 5-3 in conference, and you can pop up ahead of Richmond. Unfortunately, I don't think you can pass VCU and UMass quite yet, but you can be right on their tails. So a big game for Dayton as well. So the big question is, what does GGB and Puppers think? What does co-host Puppers think about this college basketball day? Personally, I think the best chance we have for an upset is when Missouri travels to Auburn. Auburn has been an up-and-down team this year. They play some really good basketball, and then they play some bad basketball. So it really depends on what Tigers team shows up tonight. I mean, the Auburn Tigers, Missouri Tigers. Whatever happens, a Tiger's going to come away with a win. But I've really loved watching Auburn basketball and Missouri basketball. SEC basketball is weirdly kind of interesting this year. Normally it's not because Kentucky dominates, but this year it's really up for grabs for anyone, which is interesting. I think Auburn has a huge chance to pull off this upset. I think they will, and I think I'm going to be sitting with 2.5 points tomorrow. Hey everybody, this is GGB calls for saying adios amigos, and go Tigers.